Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Chronic Chronicles. I'm your host, Lexi Halloran, and today we are joined by Olivia. She is an endo advocate, a Pilates instructor, a business owner, and a mother, all of the things. Olivia's journey with endo, adno, and PCOS has not only shaped her personal health journey, but also kind of inspired her professional path in Pilates. She's passionate about helping others move with intention and care and proving that movement can be a really powerful tool for managing chronic pain and fostering empowerment. Today, we're going to explore Olivia's personal journey and talk about endo, adno, PCOS, fertility, motherhood, owning a business, all of the things. Let's dive in. Gonna ask you to do a little introduction on yourself, maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and where you live.
Hi, my name's Olivia Brierley. I am from London and I have PCOS, endometriosis, and adenomyosis.
Mm-hmm.
I am the founder of the mindfulsoulstudio, which is a platform aimed to help women all the way from puberty to menopause through their menstrual journey. So including from puberty period, fertility, and obviously menopause and beyond via movement. And I'm so excited to be on the pod today.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Like I said a little bit earlier, I followed you for a while and loved watching your journey with your pregnancy and having your baby and all of that. So I'll definitely want to get into a little bit of that, your journey with that too. But I know you have I call it kind of like the big three, like endo, adeno, and PCOS. I feel like it's kind of like a trifecta that happens. I don't know. It's like you get diagnosed with one, and then all of a sudden, it's either you don't get diagnosed with anything else because your doctors are like, oh, everything goes into the endometriosis bucket, or you end up getting diagnosed with all three.
Yeah, mine happened. So sometimes, obviously, as you said, you get diagnosed all in one go.
Hmm.
Mine actually happened. I got diagnosed with PCOS when I was actually quite a lot younger. I got diagnosed with PCOS more when I was in my teens because I had irregular cycles and I had really bad hormonal acne and I actually had
Oh.
really thin hair. Only now do I know that those are the PCOS symptoms. It
Hmm.
was my irregular cycles that I actually went in to see someone about, and then they thought that I might have PCOS. So I found out about my PCOS sort of, oh God, I think almost a decade before I found out about my endometriosis.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I found out about my endometriosis through the laparoscopy.
Hmm.
And I woke up and they also said you've got adenomyosis. So
Yeah. So so you said that originally you went to the doctor about irregular periods. Like, how irregular are we talking?
just my kind of average cycle would be between maybe 35 and 50 days.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, really irregular. And then also, I have never had short periods. They've always been long, which is really common with PCOS.
Hmm.
Then, like most people who are listening, probably then got put on the pill.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I was on the pill, loads of different types of contraception throughout my teens. The pill, the injection. God, I had quite a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I had so many different ones, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, I feel
Of.
like you end up getting put on one, and then if it starts not working, they're just like, oh, okay, we'll put you on a different one. We'll put you on a different one. And I'm like, how many different versions exist? Like, this is ridiculous.
I know, and I
Um,
think I think they that it's gonna you go on the pill for a reason, and then there's so many side effects to it that
yep.
it's hard to know if those side effects are coming from the pill or it's coming from a hormone imbalance you're experiencing, which I think is
Hmm.
really challenging to like have all of that information at such a young age and try and work it out for yourself. That's what I found.
So did you have cysts on your ovaries too? Or
Yeah, yeah. One side of my ovary, I can't even remember which one side, one ovary, I think it's my left, was very polycystic. So
okay.
had so many more on one side than the other. It was really clear in an ultrasound.
Hmm.
And again, when I was pregnant, you get loads of ultrasound checks throughout.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that they picked up on straight away when I was pregnant. They could see that on the ultrasound. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so mine's like kind of like opposite to you. I got diagnosed with endo first. and adno. And then I've been diagnosed with endo for like 7 years, and I got diagnosed with PCOS this last year, but I've never had cysts on my ovaries that I know of. Like they've never seen anything like that, but they diagnosed me based off of other symptoms, like the hormonal imbalance. My hair is like thin. I've always had super thick hair, and I'm like losing so much hair. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like in the shower and like pulling out clumps of hair, and I'm like, Tyler, like my boyfriend, I'm like, I'm losing hair. He's like, I think it's normal to like, like you shed.
Molt like a dog.
I'm like,
Molt
I'm like, no, no, no,
quickly.
like it's coming out of my head, like a lot.
That's crazy. Have you had since you've had the PCOS diagnosis, like when your hair's been falling out, have you rechecked and had an ultrasound scan? Still not anything.
Yeah. So I got diagnosed with PCOS like 6 or 7 months ago. And and they diagnosed, like my naturopath diagnosed me, and I was like, I don't agree with that I was like, I don't have cysts. So I was like, I'm confused. I would say I definitely have a hormonal imbalance, but I've never had cystic acne. I just don't have some of the symptoms, but I do have some of them. So she
Yeah.
diagnosed me anyways. But I do have some insulin resistance, I guess. Like I'm going through some of that stuff too. And she was like, that's a big PCOS symptom as well, apparently. So I'm still like figuring out that whole journey with it. It gets really difficult too. I can't have a lot of birth controls because of I have a blood clotting disorder. So it gets kind of sketchy with some of the birth controls. So we're still figuring it
Navigating that.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I had the PCOS diagnosis, this is obviously almost a decade ago, I actually
Yeah.
haven't spoken to anyone really about it almost kind of since then, because
Hmm.
especially since then being diagnosed with endo, I kind of just put that to the side. This was like,
Yeah.
that was more important. Like, it's crazy that I've had to sort of not filter or just prioritize which one is more important.
Yep.
Like,
Hmm.
it's just crazy. But so with the PCOS, I went on the pill to try and combat some of that. But yeah, I just haven't really addressed it. I
Hmm.
mean, I had some crazy hormonal acne when I was pregnant. Definitely some patches postpartum, and I'm
Hmm.
kind of better with it now, but gosh, I do get some flare-ups now and again, some really bad flare-ups.
Yeah, I've been getting like growing up, I would get like one or two zits or like pimples or something like at a time. Like it wasn't, but I would like consistently have them, but it would be like one or two at a time, and it was never like anything crazy. But like I just turned 27, and I do have like some like breakout like on my cheeks, like more. I wouldn't say it's like cystic or anything, but I do have like more than two breakouts, I guess, which is abnormal for me. The PCOS thing is like I'm still trying to believe that I have that, but my doctors are like, you do. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. But endo has always been like the forefront for me. Like that's like my number one, the thing that gives me the most trouble and everything. So when how long after your PCOS? You said it was like a decade-ish until you got
Yeah.
diagnosed with endo?
Well, it like all comes together when I went on the pill for years, and then I met my partner a long time ago, but when we decided to try and conceive, I came off the pill, and I feel like this is really common, and I feel like it still isn't talked enough about.
Hmm.
And I think one of the reasons why is because a lot of people who go on the pill maybe are from a young age, so just fertility isn't at the front of their minds. And you don't really want to scare them by saying, well, also doctors would just never say this kind of thing. But for me, I went on the pill, lots of different types of conception. And then when we wanted to conceive, I came off the pill. And that cycle after, I know it takes quite a while for your body to regulate anyway, but that for me, I can remember it so clearly because it was the
Hmm.
worst cycle I've ever had. I was in so much pain. And obviously, what happened was, I don't know how long, it's so hard to say when I actually had endo, but for that
Yeah.
period of time, of contraception, it was just masking all of my endo symptoms. So came off and had like a couple of months of completely just just chronic. It was so bad. So yeah, trying to keep was just not not going to happen those couple of months. And that's kind of where my endo journey started.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, how long do you think it took for your body to like regulate after everyone is different. Like I've heard a lot. I actually have a lot of friends now that are like coming off of we're like 27. So they're like starting to come off of birth control and like decide if they want kids and stuff. Also, I don't know if you probably have heard about like cycle syncing and cycle tracking and like all of that. Yeah. So that is definitely more of like a trend now. So I have so many friends that are coming off of birth control and it's really like some people are totally fine and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And then some people are like, "It took me like 15 months to be normal again." So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was that's how I got into cycle syncing was straight up was kind of 3 months after I came of contraception. And it's kind
mhm.
of how my business evolved. And I can talk about that side of things, but that's
Yeah.
how it that evolved. But yeah, so I started cycle syncing. I got my cycles within 35 days, which was good. I think the normal range is between 25 and 35. So I got them within that range, but then just trying to conceive was just, I just wasn't
hmm
getting anywhere with it. And uh, it's hard because I know a lot of people who maybe go through this don't even know what endometriosis is. So I wouldn't even look to go down the avenue of wondering, could I have
Yeah.
this? I actually had a Pilates instructor who I work really closely with who has endo. And I went straight to her because I'd seen her story online. And this is another reason why I share what I do, because there's no way I would have found out about endo had she not shared it online. So I messaged her. I don't know how I felt. I just felt so lost. And I messaged her saying, I know this is out of the blue, but I've got all these symptoms. I know you talk about what you've been through. Does it sound similar? She was like, it sounds exactly like what I've been going through. So like my top symptoms, because I think it's really important. It's really important to talk, and I'm so happy to talk about my symptoms. Mine
hmm
were just chronic like pelvic pain and lower back pain. The fatigue, I think that was huge. I was just constantly fatigue and just brain fog. And also frequent urination is one that I really struggled with. So when I
hmm
actually fell pregnant and all my friends who were pregnant saying, "Oh, I'm peeing all the time," I was like, "Ah, honey,
You're
I'm
like,
so
I'm
used
used to this.
to this. I've got this." That is one thing I'm not worried about. So she actually pointed me in the direction straight away. So I'm really grateful for her. So I'm hoping she does listen to this podcast, but I am really,
Yeah.
really grateful for her. She pointed me, and I actually went straight to a gynecologist that specialized in endo rather than I obviously did go through my GP,
hmm
but the first thing I did was actually go and speak to someone. So I don't want to say I'm lucky, but I do feel like I got pointed in the right direction quite early on. So I was probably
Yeah.
about 6 months post 6 months post coming off conception, and then that's when I started to kind of investigate it a little bit.
Yeah. Let's talk periods because they're inevitable, but leaks don't have to be. That's where Period Aisle comes in. Period Aisle's reusable pads, liners, and underwear are not only leak proof, but also incredibly comfortable. I actually prefer their period boxers, and then I use the boost liner as an extra safekeeping, especially while I'm sleeping. So say goodbye to crunchy, scratchy disposables and hello to soft, sustainable period products that work as hard as you do. Oh, and did I mention that they're eco friendly? One pad can replace so many disposable products. That's a win for you and a win for the planet. They're also B Corp certified. Head over to periodaisle.com and make the switch today. You can use code Chronic Chronicles for 15% off and take the first step toward a better period experience because you deserve comfort, confidence, and a product that doesn't leak. I
Uh,
the frequent urination, I didn't know that that was an endo symptom for a long time. And then actually like the podcast Instagram page, I like put on my story. I was like, hey, anyone with endo, do you guys like do you pee all the time? Like you feel like you have to pee like every 30 minutes to an hour? And everyone was like, yes, 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 yes. And I'm like, oh, because I'm over here. It's been getting so bad recently. Like my boyfriend and I took like a 2 hour drive and we had to stop multiple. I was like, we have to stop. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm gonna pee myself. And he's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like my endo has been getting worse because I'm peeing. Like I know it's getting worse because I'm peeing so often.
Yeah. Mine's been so bad recently, so bad postpartum as well.
hmm
Um, I think it's just for me, like, obviously going to the bathroom in the day is fine. It's me, I'm up in the night so many times
Yep.
with it. Like, I
Yep.
think maybe 4 or 5 times last night.
Oh my God.
So bad.
Thankfully, I wake up around like 2 or 3 in the morning every single night and I have to go pee. And I wake my boyfriend up every single night because I try to be quiet flushing the toilet, but like it's loud. And then I wake up again at like 5 or 6 and I'm like, okay, I might as well get up because here we
Over
are.
here.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I just really wanted to point out the frequent urination thing 'cause I thought that I've just been having like UTIs like not and I would go to the doctors. I'd be like, I have a UTI because I'm peeing so much. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, you're good. No. And I'm like, okay.
I'm like, sure,
Anyway.
you want to check that again? Are you
Yeah.
sure?
I'm like, we're for sure. Like, okay. Okay, so then you went to this endo specialist and what happened then? Like obviously you had the surgery.
Well, so I went to go and have like a conversation,
hmm
and I honestly just all of this stuff is actually so clear as day. I completely had a breakdown when I left the clinic.
hmm
He actually hadn't done any tests. He'd done a ultrasound test at that point, and he actually also did blood tests for me. So he
hmm
did blood tests called AMH. I don't know if you or anyone
AMH.
listening has heard of that. So basically, AMH is a blood test to test your egg count. Really important for fertility.
hmm
To know what your AMH levels are. So we did that test and we did ultrasound, and then he sort of explained a laparoscopy to me. And again, this is also new. I'd not really heard of laparoscopy at all. And I think I sort of went into that meeting hoping that, I don't know, that I didn't have anything, that there was nothing really
hmm
going on. And, he just said, symptoms do sound really similar to endometriosis, but to investigate this further, we would need to do a laparoscopy.
Yeah.
Um, I think number one thing was cost, wait times, all that kind of stuff. So I had a bit of breakdown and I actually backed away from everything.
Yeah.
And I kind of went into denial a little bit.
Yep.
And looking back, I wish I'd just gone and got the surgery then, but it took me until the following summer to go for it again. Um, to take me to the point where I was in bed. Just I actually was living in a flat in London with my with James, my partner, and
hmm
I said, I can't do this. I actually went home. I went back to my parents' house. I actually stopped working. I was in so much pain. So
Yeah.
basically to the point of completely just combusting,
Yeah.
basically.
You didn't have another choice.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually went into the surgery with a flare up. So I had a flare up, and flare ups can last anywhere from a day to, I mean, some people can have them for months. And
hmm
it was about week 4, and I was still in so much pain. Happy to say I have not had a flare up that bad since.
That's
But
good.
yeah, I went into the surgery. So we're about 14 months past coming off the pill now. The
hmm
14 months is my journey. And then yeah, I had laparoscopy surgery and had stage 2, 3 endo and adenomyosis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then that was
I feel like that's a really common thing um that happens like especially with endometriosis, but it might be with like it probably is with a lot of chronic illnesses too that I've heard from a lot of people and myself too like you kind of almost hit like rock bottom and then you're like oh shit, okay, like I can't keep doing this, so I have to figure something out to make my symptoms a little bit better. Um Yeah, I did a fairly similar thing, but it was after I got diagnosed. I kind of went into denial because I like fought for a very long time to get the surgery. My doctor was like very against the surgery. She was like, you could have it, you could not, but like the surgery doesn't really change anything. You just get a diagnosis. And I'm like, well, I feel like I'm crazy. So I'm like, a diagnosis or not, like you going in there and like finding it or not, at least I would have like some peace of mind. Like I would know, okay, it's not that. Like we'll keep looking for something else, or it is that.
It's interesting that we had quite different experiences with doctors
Yeah.
because I had someone who was like, we need to get in there
Hmm.
tomorrow, and you had someone who was more against it, which I also, if anyone listening who is currently, you know, where we were a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
do really empathize with the mix of information there is out there about surgery. And, with everything, there's always going to be two sides to the
Hmm.
coin,
Hmm.
with whether it's a good idea or not. And, some horror stories,
Yeah.
you can read online. So it is terrifying. And I think that is a big reason why I backed away from it for ages. And also just
Yeah.
preparing yourself for the aftermath, because it's not just like taking a sick day, it's for me, it actually took me quite a few months to heal. And I also think that's really important to talk about because
Yes.
so many people, I think in the UK, maybe you have a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 off work, but
Hmm.
it can take so much longer than that,
Yeah.
mentally, physically. And also sometimes you're going into the surgery and you don't know what stage endo you're going to have. So again, that will impact your recovery as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I went into the surgery and so I think part of it too, I lived in a very, very small town, like a very small town. And I went to a gynecologist, like I didn't even know that there were endo specialists. Again, this is like 7 years ago. I was like 19. So I didn't know, like I just didn't have a lot of information. And she did an ablation, not an excision. So she was like, "Oh, you'll feel better in like 4 or 5 days." And my recovery was a lot longer than that. And then, yeah, I feel like I kind of hit the denial stage because she had told me, she was like, like if we go in for surgery and we do find endometriosis, it's not like I'm gonna cure you of it. Like and that's why she was so against it. She was like, this isn't really doing anything. Like we're just putting you through surgery. But I was like, no, no, no. Like I need to know. And then we did do the surgery and I had stage 4 endo and she was like, okay, so, and I kind of like celebrated a little bit. I was like, oh, like you found something. Thank God. Like I'm not crazy. I was about ready to like check myself into a mental hospital because I'm like, I'm crawling around on the ground in pain, but everyone's telling me that I'm fine. Like everything looks normal. My labs are normal. Like you don't see anything. So I was like, oh, thank God you found something. And she was just like, yeah, but this is chronic and it's never going away. And like, it's incurable and it could affect your fertility and like all this stuff. And I was just like, oh shit. So then I kind of went into denial mode because I was like, well, I'm 19. Like, I don't know how to deal with like that's so heavy. But then it took me kind of like also getting bedridden, and I couldn't do anything to start figuring out some type of like treatment to help my flares and stuff. But I feel like a lot of people with endometriosis go through something like that. I even had somebody on the podcast who had a very similar story to you. Like she was trying to have a baby, went to a specialist, and then they suggested surgery, and she was like, "Whoa, like I don't no, I don't want to do surgery," and waited a while and then came back. It's all just really heavy. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think the thing is so we've been trying for a while. And so the other thing that I was really aware of is that going in for surgery and then recovering takes away a couple of months of trying as well.
Yeah.
Not about to have sex after surgery.
No,
So
for real.
that was another thing. And also I was a bit worried about scar tissue.
Mhm.
So many things. It sounds dramatic, but it was almost one of the hardest decisions I've actually had to make. I had to
No, it
weigh
is
up
a
like,
really hard decision. Yeah.
is it gonna even though it's could help my fertility, would it also not help my fertility? So that was a huge thing to weigh up.
hmm
So you had surgery when you were 19, you had the ablation, and have you
hmm
had surgery since then?
I haven't. I have, um, like I said, I was in a very, very small town, so I just didn't have like options for like specialists. The closest specialist was like a 10-hour drive for me, and I was in college and university, so I was like, I don't have that option. But now I live in Seattle, which is a very big city, and there's definitely specialists here. I've been trying to find one, and I definitely want to do an excision, but also like not gonna lie, I'm really scared. Like I know that I need surgery again, and I even my gynecologist here is like, your symptoms are obviously getting worse. Like you're getting a lot more like I can't get out of bed days. And we've talked a lot. I want kids in the future. We've talked a lot about that. And she's like, to protect your fertility, like I think we should do another surgery. You knew like you have stage 4. We knew that 7 years ago. So we should probably get in there and see what's going on. But again, like I talk about endometriosis every day and I'm still scared to go get another surgery. It's not an easy choice and it's a hard recovery. And I don't know.
It is, yeah, I mean, such a tricky one.
hmm
I think, like you said, go and have the conversations again and then see how comfortable you feel with the person you're speaking to. I think that's huge as well.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't actually mention this, but um, I said that a Pilates instructor pointed me in the direction of a
Yeah.
gynecologist. And I actually, as I said, I walked away from that conversation, came back to it a year later, and ended up going and seeing another couple of surgeons, and
hmm
then landed on the one that I was comfortable with, and did. That's what I honestly think I did more research on than endometriosis itself. I did so much research on surgeons. You'll have to put it, I don't know if you have show notes, but
Yeah.
there is, I'm sure people have mentioned it, there are profiles, especially in the UK, where you can look for board certified surgeons. So I will like get
Yeah.
all of that information up. Um, so I think per major hospital in London, there was only two. There was sort of main doctor and then their
hmm
assistant. So again, obviously those wait lists are huge, but they
Yeah.
usually both do NHS and private, both work. So you
Yeah.
can work it out. But
Yeah.
um, I
I
felt really
think,
comfortable with him. I really, really did. He was the fourth person I went to see, and he really listened to me. It really didn't feel like I was just sitting there and he was waiting for the session to end, and that
mhm.
it must have maybe 15 endo patients a day. But I really didn't feel like I was another endo patient. He really made me feel heard, and that's honestly the first person that made me feel like that. So that was huge for
Yeah.
me.
I think that's super important. That can definitely like make or break a situation. Like even your comfortability and you going into surgery feeling comfortable can like so much help your recovery too. I went into surgery and I was like my I had I'm like a horror story because I my gynecologist and I just like didn't get along. And then I went into surgery and she yelled at me before surgery and I was like, I don't, you're about to cut me open and that was like not great.
Yeah, bedside manner.
Yeah.
Look, don't get me wrong, I've had some real
hmm
shockers over the years. Bedside manner is definitely something that a load of people can improve on. But yeah, if you get someone that you
Yeah.
feel really comfortable with, then that's such a win-win.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, I've recommended him to a really good friend of mine from school. Her sister and someone else have all had surgery with him
Oh
since.
wow.
I think 3 or 4 people have had surgery with one, 3 or 4 people have had surgery with him since. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I think that can be really, really crucial to just making or breaking a situation. It can definitely help. Okay, so you went through the surgery, you had your recovery, and
Yeah.
then how we also don't have to talk too much about it, but like how was your fertility journey after that? Like how long
Yeah.
or not how long, but you
So when I
obviously got pregnant.
yeah, so yeah. So I have mentioned this to a couple of people. I obviously think there is a place in the world for Western medicine. Clearly, I had major surgery,
Hmm.
uh, but I do think natural, remedies and Western medicine can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so, even though the surgery was amazing and helped clear all the endo out, I feel like my journey kind of began after that in
Hmm.
healing. So I had a rough couple of months, a really rough couple of months mentally, because as I said, I'm a Pilates instructor, so all my work was just cut. Yeah. And then what happened after my surgery is I actually lost my period for 3 months. So I had a bleed straight after my surgery, and then I actually lost my period for like 3 months. So the whole fertility thing for me, I had this sort of 7 month gap, which was
Yeah.
really tough as well. And the stress of losing my period.
That was probably so scary. You're like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
just was so
Yeah.
nervous about the surgery, and now you did it for your fertility, really. And
Yeah.
now you don't have a period.
So a couple of things now that, so as I said, I was getting back into cycle syncing,
Hmm.
which I think is almost like a number one thing I think people should do post surgery, or even just everyone should do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so got back into cycle syncing, and so obviously lost my period for 3 months. And then I actually think what happened was the stress of the surgery and the stress of trying to conceive was one thing. So stress is just number one
Hmm.
sort of
Hmm.
blocker in, well, not number one blocker, but like it's
It's
yeah.
definitely a problem child. Yeah.
The second was I think I actually lost a lot of weight after my surgery. I think I was just a mix of like really down mentally, didn't really have the strength to do loads of cooking, which is something that I love doing. I think I actually lost a lot of weight after my surgery, so I don't think that played a part. But I went on a Ayurvedic journey. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's Ayurvedic medicine. So it derives from, it's like an really old type of sort of natural healing process, and it comes from India.
Okay.
I got put on a course of herbs um, from someone for a couple of months. I got back into cycle syncing, so I was syncing all my foods to the 4 phases.
Hmm.
And then with cycle syncing around your follicular phase, your ovulation phase is when they say you should sort of ramp up your exercise. But I actually just stuck to low impact, lots of swimming, and I got my cycle back after 3 months, which was amazing. I couldn't believe that it came back that quickly,
Yeah.
actually. And then I conceived about 4 months after that.
Okay. Yeah.
So total about 7 months post surgery.
Yeah. Um, so what is this is kind of like a segue, but what is your business?
Okay, so what happened was, I'm originally a Pilates instructor, and because I've gone through lots of different phases of going through my endometriosis and then trying to conceive, and then obviously now postpartum, I have been on multiple different online platforms, and I basically felt that I had never found a platform that offered everything.
Yeah.
So I would go to one platform for Pilates, I would go to one platform for pregnancy Pilates, or I go on a women's health platform. But I couldn't find everything in one go. So I
Hmm.
was like, right, I'm going to just create everything in one go. Essentially, when you log in, so I created an online women's health platform, which is a
Yeah.
movement platform. It's called the Mindful Studio. And when you log in, you can decide which profile you want to choose depending on where you are in your hormonal journey. So whether you're in puberty, you're just on your period, you are in your fertility years, you are postpartum, you are in menopause. There's something for everyone. So you can choose a category, which is I just want to move,
Hmm.
prenatal classes, or track your cycle and move. So the track your cycle and move, all the prenatal ones are probably most appropriate to anyone listening to this. So when you log in, I'm sure most of you've heard of like Flow or
Hmm.
Stardust or any of those apps. So you can go in and you can track your cycle, but not only can you do that, once you track your cycle, you can find classes tailored to each of the four phases. So we have
Ooh.
a strength trainer, we have a yoga instructor and a Pilates instructor. So you can find movements according to each of the four phases. So there's amazing yoga, yin classes, breathwork classes for your menstrual phase and your premenstrual. And then in your follicular phase, there's some strength workouts, low impact. And then your luteal phase, there's some gorgeous Pilates and yoga flows. So
Ooh.
real mix. And then what's amazing is that if you then fall pregnant, you just then change your profile option. So you
Yeah.
can then move to prenatal classes and then you can go back to track your cycle, after postpartum. So I'm really proud of it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
No,
cool. I just couldn't find
I,
anything online that anyone had. I couldn't find anything that was similar. So I was like, right, I'm gonna create my own thing.
yeah, no, I 100% agree because for a long time, I just told myself that, I have endometriosis, but I can still do like whatever I want to do, which in theory you can, but you need to like tailor it a little bit to, fit your body more. Because I would go and I would like run, and I'm like, oh my God, every single time I run, I have a flare. Like, what
Yeah,
is going on? And then I realized, maybe running is not what I should be doing. Or maybe there's a time to run, but
yeah,
maybe I
that's
shouldn't
what I
be
was gonna
doing
say.
it,
Yeah,
you know? But it's really confusing and it can be like really hard to figure out, like what should I be doing during what part of my cycle? And then also like the cycle syncing in itself is a little bit difficult when you have endometriosis, PCOS, or if you're on birth control and stuff. But I've heard of, like if you don't have regular cycles, trying to cycle sync to like the phases of the moon.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's kind of what I do right now to try to figure out what's going on.
yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think if you have irregular cycles or you're on birth control and you still want to cycle sync, you can still do it.
Hmm.
Because it's really good for your body to have a natural, I guess, cycle of
Yeah.
exercise as well. So you can keep consistent with it, even though you're not technically going through the four phases, because your body is still going through a process. It's going through a cycle. But most recently, something that could be useful for people is I just launched a new section on the platform, which is called Women's Health.
Hmm.
So what I did is if you wanted to do the track my cycle, or you just wanted to follow the classes, I've separated the classes into four sections, which
Ooh.
are sleep, endometriosis, period pain, sleep, endometriosis, period pain, and all the classes are put into those sections. So
Yeah.
in the endometriosis, there's some lower back exercises, breathing, really gorgeous stretches. And then in
Ooh.
the sleep, there's obviously like meditation, stuff like that. So I have separated into those sections, which is could be really useful as well.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'll put that in the show notes too so people can go check that out. Um, do you I guess we don't have to talk super much about it because I can put it in the show notes too, but do you have like memberships for it? Like,
Yeah.
is it yearly or monthly or?
Yes, so you have a monthly, quarterly, or yearly option
Okay.
for the membership. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I guess kind of branching off of that, do you think that Pilates has helped you manage your symptoms like now? Or do you still have flares or do you still have symptoms?
100% it's
Hmm.
helped me. I think what has helped is the knowledge around what exercises or stretches to do if you're having a flare up. I think that's been so valuable. And also just because I've got a sort of a wide variety of exercises that I know, it's sort of trial and error as well with a few. And sometimes some work for a certain flare up and some don't.
Hmm.
I think it's just a kind of I think with a flare up, you can feel so overwhelmed, so exhausted, and just like upset from it. So I think any type of like low impact exercise can help just ground you anyways, and kind of just, yeah, give yourself a bit of grace and just, yeah, have some time for yourself. And just even
Yeah.
if it's lying on the mat and just breathing,
Yeah.
I think it's been so amazing that I mean, it's crazy that I was actually a plastic instructor and then got diagnosed, but I think it's been massive like so helpful.
I don't know. It's kind of cliche to say, but I remember growing up and, like I would have really bad cramps and I feel like my mom would be like, go for a walk. Like you got to get your body moving. Like you need blood flow. And I'd be like, no, that is the last thing I want to do. Like I want to keep laying in my bed. I'm in pain. But honestly, though, like even getting up and doing like a little bit of stretching, like something low impact, moving my body just a little bit, it does help a little,
Yeah.
like not pushing. Obviously, don't go run like a 5K when you're in a shit ton of pain, but getting up and just like moving a little bit and getting some blood flow because you need, I don't know, like blood needs to be moving in your body for your body to actually be like functioning. So,
I remember so clearly one how I was going on a walk with James, and I remember I was in a flare up and I was walking and he was like, oh, should we just stop here and go to this cafe? And I remember being like, I just don't want to stop. If I could carry on walking and walking and walking and walking, because it was just like almost a distraction from the pain. It
mhm,
was just helping so much. But yeah, movement, small movement definitely helps. I've always said that around the menstrual and the premenstrual phase, it's so good to do some movement, just some stretching, some breathing,
mhm.
walking, just to get that blood flowing, as you said. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's really,
our bodies are not meant to be sedentary. And it's really, really hard when we're in a bunch of pain, especially if you're going on like a week-long flare or something and you're just like sitting in bed constantly. Like, I, people are gonna hate me for saying this, but like not getting up and moving a little bit might be making your symptoms a little bit worse too, just because you have to move. Even if, and I'm not like, again, I feel like I'm gonna get some comments from people being like, but I can't, like I literally can't do that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like there are definitely some days where you just can't. But even if you have to get up, like you have to get up to go to the bathroom, even if you have to do that, do like a couple laps around your house or do some like light stretching and then go back. Um,
yeah.
and it can help so much, which for a long time I just like didn't do that. And I've seen a big difference.
My my exercise has changed so much. So when I was probably like a decade ago, when I was going through all the PCOS
Hmm.
issues, I would really, really like do so many HIIT classes. I would just do really high impact classes. I would only go to the gym to sweat. I thought that was the only way I'd feel good, the only way I
Hmm.
feel lose weight. I was in such a I actually thought, looking back, I thought I was in the best place with my exercise regime, best place with my fitness, but I was probably in the worst place
Hmm.
for my body.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got introduced to the world of low impact and Pilates, and it massively changed my mindset on how I view exercise. And like, don't get me wrong, I obviously exercise because I want to be fit as well, but
Yeah.
mentality around like going to do exercise because it's going to make me feel better rather than lose weight and look better has shifted massively.
Hmm.
Um, Especially made me a lot more humble since having endometriosis and also having CM. Like, oh my God, just yeah, it's
Yeah.
changed massively, and I'm really glad it has, because I almost think there was a point where I was quite unhealthy with how I was exercising. So
Yeah.
it's
I feel pretty similarly to that. Like I not gonna lie, I honestly like when I'm doing exercises, like most of the time I'm definitely gonna check out your classes because I've been looking for something like that. But most of the time I just go on YouTube and I look up like low impact, like Pilates, like mat workouts, stuff like that, or just like low impact exercises in general, or I go on like walks and stuff. I honestly like don't sweat that much in my workouts anymore. And for a long time, I was like, if I'm not sweating super hard or if my heart rate isn't really high, like I'm not working out, like I'm just sitting here. But I feel like my body would feel so awful after that stuff. And I would always have a flare. And now, like, if I'm doing low impact, I may not be like dripping sweat, but I'm still like working. Like it's doing something.
actually, what I would say is, if anyone who has endometriosis and they're thinking about cycle syncing,
Yeah.
um, so just quickly with the four phases. So menstrual phase, the first phase of your cycle when you bleed,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually, time to rest, or you can do your walking or swimming or, slow yoga, slow Pilates. And then your follicular phase just before you ovulate is when you're meant to sort of ramp up the exercise. But for someone who has endometriosis and they find that that type of exercise gives them flare-ups, that's what I would just be mindful is for when cycle syncing. Definitely raise the tempo, bring the tempo up, but it doesn't mean you have to completely exert yourself. Um, that's something I would just mention. Like
Yeah.
what you need to do is you could follow a Pilates. So if you go on, say you went onto my platform and you just wanted to do Pilates over your cycle, the way that the Pilates have been categorized is that you in your first phase, those Pilates are slow. And then in
Mm-hmm.
the second phase, you've got higher impact Pilates. So instead of doing strength, you could just do a higher impact Pilates class, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So that's something I actually did for ages until I felt a bit more comfortable doing, like bringing in weights or bringing in that those hit type classes. So
Yeah.
you can still cycle sync, but just at a lower grade
Yeah.
tempo. That makes sense. And I think that's just quite valuable and to like know that you don't have to sort of thrash around, because also if you're trying to get pregnant and ovulation's the high, when it's meant to be the point where you do the strongest exercise. For me, I used to get flare-ups or still do around
Mm-hmm.
ovulation. So it was an absolute no-go doing that type of exercise
Mm-hmm.
during ovulation. Like, no way.
Yeah. Um, I also obviously I found you through Instagram and social media. So, how do you think that like being, kind of a public figure on social media has impacted your journey with endometriosis? Like, do you feel like that's changed anything for you, like positively or negatively?
I mean, I can only really say positively
Hmm.
because it's been so nice. If I think back to when I became a Pilates instructor, I never would have thought that it would have sort of like pivoted off to this. I
Hmm.
never thought I was launching a women's health platform. I never thought that, yeah, it's been amazing to be able to incorporate my work into um what's going on with me personally, which
Yeah.
sounds, as endometriosis is one of like the most painful conditions, but to have made something of it has been amazing,
Hmm.
and to have a community and to have people message me about just anything to do with fertility or
Yeah.
yeah, endometriosis questions. I always get questions and I just love chatting to everyone, and especially all the members on the platform is amazing. Um, I think for the only thing I would say is that when I did fall pregnant, um, putting that out there was quite scary because
Hmm.
I'd had so many conversations with people about fertility. So to then have put that out there with people who are still on their journey was yeah, I was scared. I was scared to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that can make a lot of sense though. Like, it is scary
However,
because
I've had some amazing messages from people saying like it's given me hope, and
mhm.
there's been positives as well. So
It can be kind of scary because you obviously like it can take people a very long time and it can take people not as long of a time. But I think that regardless, like struggling with infertility, like whether it be one cycle or 50 cycles is hard no matter what. Like, I feel like you spend so much of your life as a girl avoiding pregnancy, like being scared of getting pregnant and being on birth control. And honestly, I don't know if this is the same for you, but I didn't even know that that you could only get pregnant during a couple days of your cycle until I was like f far into my adult life. Like, ha I don't know why we're not taught that. If anything, we're taught like we're scared into thinking that, like you can get pregnant whenever, but it actually is like hard to get pregnant.
because I yeah, 100%, because just quickly back on the social media thing.
Yeah.
I spoke a lot on social media before I actually had sort of like quite deep conversations with friends. For some reason, I found it easier for people to find out about it through that rather than
Hmm.
having this, even some family and as well. Um, but yeah, yeah, God, it's just crazy. I don't know. I think, oh yeah. The whole
Yeah,
thing's
I do think the same thing too. Like even on the social media for the podcast, I will go on there and I'll talk a lot about like symptoms I'm going through like in that day, like kind of like a checkup. Whereas like my boyfriend who I live with and we've been together for 10 years, he doesn't even know like sometimes when I'm going through a flare up because not that like obviously he would be supportive of it, but it's like not new. Like I deal with it all the time. He deals with it all the time. I deal with it all the time. And I just feel like it's easier for me to go onto this platform where I've created this community and talk to them about it because we're all kind of going through similar things. So,
It's been interesting this summer. I've had quite a lot of like weddings and things like that where I've seen
mhm.
a lot of girlfriends. And because I've been quite open about you know, what's been going on with me, quite a lot of girlfriends have then come to me and asked me questions about
Yeah.
their what's going on with them. So even though I've been open on social media, it's allowed conversations to happen, which I think is amazing. And sort of going back to what you said about the four phases, I still have people who don't. I'm in my, early 30s, and I still have people who don't know much about the four phases. And if
Yeah.
you're listening, you don't know about it, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. Um, there's I can also put some like I don't know if you have any book recommendations, but I have a couple that I can put on this show notes too.
I also on my platform I have a whole so when you become a member you get a free hormone health guide when you become a member and I think it's like 20 or 30 pages and that is all in depth.
Wow.
I did a women's health course so that's all in depth about your cycle, all about cycle syncing, all about different phases, nutrition, so you
Oh
get
my
that
God.
free as so that's a good thing to also can tap into.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. It can be a lot. Like, why is being a woman so hard? Like, there's just so much information. Not to dog on men, but the world
Yeah,
is built around guys and they have it easier.
I and the healthcare system is all built around guys and testing on guys. I mean,
Hmm.
where are the women's studies?
I
I
know.
had a recent, as I was saying, sometimes I've been having a bit of ovulation pain since having Sienna, and I went to see a gyno, and they literally said to me, I'm gonna have to go away and do a little bit of research on this and come back to you. Just had no idea what to say. Absolutely
Ugh.
no idea. First of all, I was offered the birth control. And I was like, nope. I just don't want to go back on it. It just didn't work for me. Um, but that was their only option. That was the only thing, or medication.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Do you have naturopathic doctors in the UK?
yeah, we do. So I think a couple of the holistic things that I changed were I did this Ayurvedic course.
Hmm.
I changed my diet quite a bit. And yeah, went to see a naturopath and I got a few herbs. Again, I can write all the things that I recommend. And again,
Yeah.
there goes trial and error with everyone, isn't it? Everyone's body's different.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
mm.
Okay. Last couple questions for you here. Do you have, I don't even know. This is just because we're talking about your business. Do you have any like future goals or any projects that you're working on or anything new with your business?
I think I think we've created such an amazing community of women, but it has mainly been online, and in fact, it
Hmm.
is completely online.
Yeah.
Um, Number one, because I did actually create the platform when I was pregnant. So for me, it works being at home with Sienna and having this online platform. However, I do feel like in the future, not too distant future, is I do want to do more women's health retreats. I
Hmm.
don't think there's that many retreats out there where you can actually go and sort of be with people who are going through similar things. And a lot of retreats out there are just, we eat well, we do Pilates, it's very
Hmm.
Zen, which are all incredible. And I've been on a few and I love them. But I think there's room for something else out there
Hmm.
that's tailored around, women's health and learning a little bit more on
Hmm.
something along those lines. I see. A bit more
Yeah.
more in person things.
I
I
would
think.
love that. I actually have been like thinking a lot about something similar with that and having um somebody come out, like go on a retreat like that, but have like kind of like a seminar about like cycle syncing, like nutrition, exercise, like stuff like that. Um, so that would be really cool. If you
Yeah,
ever,
really cool. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. We will talk. I think there's just got to be a lot of thought to it because you're
Oh
going to
yeah.
arrive there and everyone's going to be on different cycles and I
Oh
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool though. It's a good idea for sure.
I do it, yeah.
And then I guess my last question is a loaded question, but what advice, like one piece of advice, would you give to someone who maybe is like newly diagnosed to endo or PCOS and they're kind of like in that denial phase?
One piece of advice, I think, and you're probably just is to believe that it will get better. It will get better. You will find out more information about yourself and your body and what you're going through. You will find a community of people and it just will get better. Like it will get easier. And I know it's so scary
Yeah.
and it's so hard to even know where to even start, but it just will get better. It will get easier. And I know how scary it is at the beginning, but trust me and believe that it will. And just take as much time as you need to navigate through it. Don't rush into any decisions too quickly. Like do all
Hmm.
your research. And we are both here if you want to chat as
Yeah.
well. And
100%.
when my partner I'm just sat on the sofa answering DMs all evening. He was like, "You're just instant chat box." I'm like, I know, I need to get back to everyone. Trust me, I flag every message. So if I do reply to you in 2 weeks, but I promise I will get back to you.
Hmm.
So it will get better. I don't know. I feel like that is like the only advice.
Yeah.
I got so much advice, but it's so scary at the beginning. It's so scary throughout, but get better. It does get easier
Yeah.
as you just a bit
It
more
gets
knowledgeable.
easier and
Yeah.
the pain, like symptoms may not ever really go away, but like your ability to,
Deal with it.
yeah, deal with it and kind of like digest information. And you're going to learn so much about your body, which is kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That is so true. I think so I potentially want to have some more children. I said to my partner, oh, it does scare me to go through it all again. And
Hmm.
he said to me, think of the position that you're in now and think of the position you were in when you came
Yeah.
off that section. And I got so teary about it. I was like, oh, it's actually, I don't know, I was just so proud of I actually was really proud of myself. I was like, I've just learned so much about myself, so much
Yeah.
about like women's bodies and cycles and everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
You're
journey,
in,
but you'll learn so much from it. And you'll be able to help other people as
hmm
well.
Yeah. And you're like, you personally, for sure, are in such a better position and mindset now than you were then as well. So that it sounds like you have a supportive partner. That's nice.
Mhm. That's what you do too.
Yeah. That also like really
They don't have a
helps.
choice.
Yeah, I know. I know. My poor boyfriend, like we started dating when we were 17 and then like 2 years later I got diagnosed with this like life-altering thing. And we've been talking about we don't plan on having kids or like want to start having kids until we're about like 30-ish, I think. But we have been talking about like potential infertility problems for the like our whole relationship because I'm like I'm terrified about this and like this could happen. And so, yeah, at least I don't want to say I'm in like a better position, but like my mind has already like dealt with the fact that I could have like it might not be that easy,
Yeah.
which helps.
I think, yeah, I think if anyone on here is listening and they think that they potentially do want a family in the future,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with preparing for it a long time before you think you're gonna have it,
Yeah.
have children. Um, because so I obviously came off the pill and then had 2 years of dealing with it before I could really be in a position to try and conceive. So
Yeah.
having come off the pill a year before I actually thought I was going to have children or thought I would start trying, it probably would have been slightly different. So I
Mm-hmm.
know it's scary coming off the pill. I think for a number of reasons. One big one for me was acne. I was so scared to come off the pill because of my skin.
Yeah.
But there's going to have to be a point when you are. So
Yeah.
whether that's under control, but it's scary, I
Yeah.
know.
It's definitely a scary choice. And I know I have an IUD still right now. And I've been like,
Oh my
okay, I'm like pretty sure I'm gonna get it taken out soon, but I'm like contemplating. I'm also like going back and forth with the excision surgery. And I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do the surgery, I might just wait until I do the surgery and then get that taken out like at the same time. Uh,
Actually, that's a good piece of advice, actually. I would suggest, although I know some people are going to
yeah.
really like this, is that if you're going to have a surgery, come off all forms of contraception after it so you can really know what your body's doing.
Hmm.
Because if you go on contraception straight after, you can still mask symptoms. So I think it's so good to know what's going on with your body. However, I know lots of people haven't done that, and
Hmm.
might not be the best choice for everyone. But if you kind of want to know what's going on with your body, it might
Yeah.
be good, especially if you're trying
Yeah.
to conceive.
I feel like that's probably what's gonna end up happening for me. But again, like I'm 27 now and like I want to start and like potentially have a baby at like 30. So I'm kind of like trying to prep for that and figure out. So like if I have surgery in the next like year and a half, get off my birth control, then that gives me time to like figure out what's happening with my cycles before I actually start like
Yeah.
actually trying to have a baby. So again, like that might not be like what other people I when I was 19 and I had surgery, I didn't even want to have like a potential for a baby. So in an IUD went, but
So this is actually for all the PCOS girlies out there,
yeah.
if who are trying to conceive or thinking about having family. With PCOS, your cycles can be irregular, so pinpointing ovulation can be really tough.
Yeah.
For example, the month before I conceived, I ovulated on day 18, but the month I actually conceived, I ovulated on day 26. So
Oh wow.
such a big difference in it wasn't a lot of people. So let's say for a 28-day cycle, it'd be day 14. So I use something called a Myra tracker to track my hormones and track my cycle. So it's something to maybe again put in the show notes as well. And I do have a
Yeah.
code for
Okay.
anyone who wants to do that, and look a bit more into it. But essentially, you can test your hormones every day to see what's happening
Ooh.
through a cycle. Just interesting,
Yeah.
to know. And with the flow apps and things like that, it's only ever a prediction. It's not actually telling you when you ovulate. So, and
Mhm.
I have compared the two, and they were kind of actually way off. So had I just
Yeah.
followed flow, I would have had sex at the right
Yeah.
times. That's an interesting one, but I can let you guys research that a little bit more.
Yeah, we can definitely put that in the show notes too, and you can send me your code for it, and I'll put it in the show notes. Um, and then I guess my last thing for you is where can people find you?
Okay, so the women's health platform is called the Mindful Soul Studio,
Hmm.
and then my Instagram is just Olivia Brierley.
Perfect. And I'll also put those in the show notes too, if it's easier for people to just click on things. But
Yeah.
thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Yeah, so good. I loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Chronic Chronicles. Olivia's story is really just a testament to the power of movement, resilience, and finding purpose, even in the face of chronic illness. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to check out Olivia's work. You can follow her on social media for more insight into her journey and her fitness app. I also will go ahead and link all of that in the show notes, so make sure you go check her out and check out her fitness app. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please, please, please leave us a review, share it with your friends, and make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. We have a lot of fun things coming up for the holiday season. A lot of that will definitely be mentioned in the podcast episodes, but it will frequently be updated on Instagram. So make sure you give us a follow at Chronic Chronicles Pod on Insta. There'll be lots of giveaways, which I'm going to talk a lot about next Monday on next week's episode. But Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Together, we are really creating a community of support and understanding for all of us navigating life with chronic illness. Until next time, take care, keep advocating for your health, and make sure that you really enjoy this Thanksgiving weekend if you celebrate, and enjoy some really yummy food. All right, I will see you next week.